Hey everybody, AC here, and welcome back to another episode of Mang-Gust Volume 2. We're here, folks. Number 1. My favorite manga of all time is Rave Master. It is a manga from Hiro Mashima, his first long-running work. Before Eden Zero, before Fairy Tail, he had Rave Master. It lasted for 35 volumes, and almost 400 chapters. I believe it was like 300, the upper 300s. No, it was just under. No, it was just under 300. It was just under 300, and then it had a few special chapters. So if you count the special chapters, then it's a little over 300 chapters. So it was the first manga series I ever read. The first manga chapter I ever read was the Naruto one-shot before Naruto actually started. And then the first manga book I ever owned was Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium World. But before owning Millennium World and after reading the Naruto one-shot, the first manga series I ever actually read was Rave Master. I kept seeing it at my at my middle school, but I never bothered to try and read it. I never bothered to try and read it. Eventually, I decided to pick a couple of books out and attempt to read them. And this was before I had finally figured out exactly how you're supposed to read them. So I did not understand anything that I was reading. I did not understand anything that I was reading. I was like, why doesn't this make sense? This is dumb. And so I just kind of gave up on it. And then after I got Yu-Gi-Oh! Millennium World Volume 1, and I read that a few times, and then I suddenly understood how I was supposed to read that stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Rave Master another shot. So I did. I read it, and I fell in love with the story, the characters, the world, the pacing, all of it. I thought it was all just incredible. It opened my mind to what manga is capable of, and it felt like I was in that world. It felt like I had been taken to that world, and that was a feeling that I hadn't felt in a while. The last time I remember feeling that way for any kind of book was Harry Potter. Harry Potter and Lemony Snicket. Those were the two book series that I read back in elementary school. While other first and second graders were busy reading Dr. Seuss's Oh Say Can You Say, I was busy reading Lemony Snicket, A Series of Unfortunate Events, and Harry Potter. By the time I entered fourth grade, I was reading The Hobbit And then in fifth grade, I started reading Lord of the Rings. And I was I had a very very high reading level. I had a very high reading level from an early age, um, and the more I kept reading, the less interesting I found it. I found it less and less interesting the more I did it. The first couple of times I read books for Lemony Snicket and Harry Potter, I loved it. I felt like I was in those worlds. But the more I kept reading other books, the less I got that feeling. The less and less I got that feeling, and it felt like I was just reading for the sake of keeping up appearances, for the sake of just continuing to let everyone think that I'm really smart, when I actually wasn't a very smart student. I just liked to read, but now it suddenly felt like I had an obligation to read. And so I started to not really like reading as much, because it felt like I was obligated to do it rather than doing it because I wanted to. Um, and that's around the time when I started to come across manga. And um, I did not have a comic book store growing up anywhere in my area. There was no comic book store. The closest comic book store to my house at the time was more than half an hour away from my house. That was the closest comic book store in uh, near me. Over half an hour away to get to a comic book store. And so I didn't get to read a whole lot of comic books. I didn't read a whole lot of superhero comic books back then. Um, Occasionally, I would go read some that I would end up reading some that a cousin had. Um, I had a cousin that collected superhero comic books. Um, my favorites were Teen Titans and Spider Man. I really enjoyed both Teen Titans and Spider Man. Um, I enjoyed a Batman comic every once in a while, but like Teen Titans and Spider Man were like my favorites. Um, and But I didn't have a way to read those all the time. And so when I found manga, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a comic book. This is kind of like a comic book, but they're not superheroes. They're normal people, and then they end up finding something that's super powerful, and it helps them fight bad guys. Um, but they're not superheroes. They're just people trying to do what's right. And I was captivated. I was captivated by that kind of storytelling and the kind of art style that I saw in manga. It was so unique, so interesting. And this was before I really got into like anime. I had seen a few animes up to that point. Sailor Moon, Speed Racer, the original Dragon Ball. Um, I had seen a little bit of Naruto. The anime was just starting at the time, so I saw the first couple episodes, and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. I saw those, loved those. Naruto was just getting started, so I was like, I was still kind of on the fence on that one with the anime because I wasn't sure if I'd enjoy it. Um, and the Just getting to read manga was one of the greatest joys of my middle school and high school years. Just getting to read and be introduced to so many different mangas, a lot of which are still some of my favorite mangas to this day. Um, Rave Master, Saint Seiya, high school debut, the Pokemon manga, The Yu-Gi-Oh manga, Death Note, Death Note, um, Ultimo as well. Ultimo started coming out when I was in high school, and I absolutely loved it. Um, and Negima, Rosaria Vampire, um, Heaven's Lost Property. Every single one of those. Just I got introduced to so many different mangas during those years, and I still love every single one of them to this day. They are still my favorites. To this day, they are all still my favorite mangas. Uh, as was seen here in this list. But the crown s- still belongs and will always belong to Rave Master. And I personally do not like Fairy Tail or Eden Zero. I personally do not like either of them. And uh, this is a bit of a issue that I have with Hiro Mashima as a creator. I loved Rave Master. It is my all-time favorite manga. But Hiro Mashima, he basically took the characters and copy and pasted them into Fairy Tail and changed one or two details about their appearance. And that was pretty much it. He changed a couple details about their appearance, maybe gave them different hair colors, but that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the extent of how he changed up the characters. And a lot of the plot lines, a lot of the story arcs in Rave Master were also copy and pasted into Fairy Tail. With the Tartarus arc being the pinnacle of that. Um, the Tartarus arc being the Tartarus arc being the pinnacle of that, as that is the that arc is basically the Fairy Tail version of the final war in Rave Master. And I I personally think that uh, everybody who is constantly praising Fairy Tail, they they don't know they most people don't realize Rave Master exists anymore, and that is very unfortunate. I hate that most people don't even know of Rave Master's existence anymore. So anytime I mention that, basically every time I mention that my favorite work from Hiromashima is Rave Master, um, everyone always looks at me like I'm crazy, and they ask me what I'm talking about. And I'm like, Rave Master from Hiromashima, and I'm like, what's? And they always say, what's that? Nobody remembers it. When I say Hiromashima, people say, oh yeah, I love Fairy Tail, or yeah, I love Eden Zero, but they have no idea that neither of those series would exist without Rave Master. Rave Master was the basis for pretty much all of Hiromashima's work. Every single one of his series copy and pastes the same character designs over and over and over again. He really does. He copy and pastes the same character designs and the same plot twists, the same story arcs, same story beats, all of it. He copy and pastes all of it from one series to another, and he's essentially just telling the exact same story over and over and over again with just slight variations. Um, where instead of a group of warriors, it's a group of spellcasters or a group of space mercenaries. But it all comes down to Hiro Mashima is constantly copying his own work and not really doing anything original. And that is not okay with me. That really is not okay with me, especially when it comes at the cost of uh, everybody forgetting what the original was. The original material that is constantly being copied is Rave Master, not Fairy Tail. Everybody keeps saying how Eden Zero copied Fairy Tail. No, it copied Rave Master after Fairy Tail copied Rave Master. It's all a copy of Rave Master. Every single work he's done after it, and that's just kind of an issue that I have. That's just kind of an issue that I have with Hiro Mashima in general. But in any case, as far as the story goes, to briefly give a story summary, Haru Glory is a young boy who lives on a very peaceful island when suddenly he ends up meeting this old man and Plu, who is this weird walking snowman-like creature. It's never explained exactly what Plu is, and both Rave Master and Eden Zero have different explanations as far as what Plu is. But Eden Zero and Fairy Tail both have different explanations for what Plu is. But Rave Master just never answers it and just leaves it as a big mystery as to what Plu is. And I kind of prefer it that way. Plu is just this anomaly that exists because it exists. And this old man tells Haru about the Rave Stone, and about the 10 power sword, and he gives them to Haru, and he makes Haru his successor, the wielder of the 10 power sword and the Rave, and tells Haru that he needs to bring down the demon card, which is a group of evildoers that are using special evil crystals called Dark Brings in order to cause chaos throughout the world and try to subjugate the entire world. And so it's up to Haru to stop them. And along the way, he ends up making friends with a girl who really loves gambling and thinks that Plu is a bug, called Ellie, who doesn't have like any memories beyond a year prior to the events of the series. A silver bender. There's no other way to put that. It is a guy who can manipulate silver at will, named Musica. A dragon warrior named Let, and many, many, many others to come. And together they end up forming the Rave Warriors group. And they go on adventures. And they try to defeat the demon card and restore peace and balance to the world, one battle at a time. And that's basically the gist of the series. There's a lot more twists and turns to it, and there's a lot of stuff that gets added to it that raises the stakes. But that is the basic premise for the series. And it is just my absolute favorite series of all time. I absolutely adore it. Um, I reread it every single year. It is like a ritual for me. Every summer, I will read it. I will read the entire series every summer. Um, and I absolutely adore it. So, there you go. That is my favorite manga of all time. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good jazz. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.